Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Sith Justice Warrior podcast. This is Princess Lupia here. I am joined today with my co-host Darth Sirius.
Hey guys.
Jaded Fan is still out enjoying the sun somewhere tropical. I apologize because the allergies have returned and are plaguing my sinuses. So I will sound like a congested person who could potentially have corona. But no, I joke. That actually is kind of the gist of our episode this week. And while we hope everyone stays safe and practices some caution and common sense when being out in public areas and washing your hands, we did want to bring up just a couple pieces of news as it relates to the impacts that we're seeing from the coronavirus in the industry. And one of the things that I've noticed, actually one of the bigger cons that starts out the season, besides some of the wizard ones and things like that, is the Emerald City Comic Con.
And that's the one in Seattle, right?
Yes. And we were going to actually go to it. Luckily, we made the choice to try to do it next year, because if we did, we would be kind of SOL.
It was a subconscious foreshadowing.
Yeah, because so what started out with some cancellations here and there of some artists, Jim Lee actually confirmed that he, and rightfully so, he made the decision that he would not be at Emerald City Comic Con. Then following that, a couple novelists, authors that I follow also made the same announcements on their Twitter feeds. And then I received an email from our lovely buddy Jay Scott, who actually was going to brave the Comic-Con. He was like, look, we thought about it, but me and my team think we're going to be just fine. Yeah. And he has a great team, let me tell you, when he sets up his booth. So
yeah, and the best part is that he met in the middle. Like, he actually said, we won't be like shaking hands or like getting too close to taking photos and stuff, but we want to be there for everybody.
Exactly.
He knows how to do it,
which I thought was awesome because being in the entertainment industry, you have to still somehow have the same reach to your fans, and with comic books, it definitely is something that you still have to remember, just that connection, and especially as an artist and a well-known one as Jay Scott is. And so what started out with multiple cancellations this week kind of accumulated towards the end of the week, the ultimate cancellation notification to a lot of the people and to the media. And I thought that was interesting because besides the Comic-Cons, we were also seeing in the news cancellations of big festivals, big music festivals, and we're big music festival lovers. One of the biggest in Miami is Ultra for EDM, and I was very shocked to see that they canceled Ultra.
That's a big one too.
That's
a really big one.
It brings so much to the city of Miami in terms of like tourism, jobs, that kind of thing. But it's also just one of the largest EDM festivals, and it's a mainstay, it's a staple along that Brickell Avenue, I think is where it is. But it was definitely another one that we almost were going to go to, and we made the decision to not and put our efforts up elsewhere. So following that, and then I'll kind of pass it over to get some of your thoughts. Sirius is like, following that, we also heard of South by Southwest, which is another big one down in Austin. It's like movie, music, that kind of thing, canceled. In Bentonville, there's a big movie festival that happens all the time, sponsored by Gina Davis. That got pushed out. What I'm wondering is that, where is this going to lead to? Like, for example, Coachella is another big one that's coming up. There's a big ton of music festivals coming up. Even Tomorrowland Winter, which is another EDM festival that happens in Europe, was canceled. So
I think that one's in Belgium, right?
No, the winter one is in France. Yeah, so like I said, big news, just in the industry alone from coronavirus. It's not just impacting tourism, but it's impacting the festivals that we know and love. And I will mention as well movies. I could not believe that James Bond, the latest No Time to Die, was pushed out. The launch date was pushed out due to concerns over the coronavirus and how it would impact the movie's performance. And it is a big film for the franchise because it's the last one for Daniel Craig, I think. And it sort of wraps up that whole arc. So I'll leave it there since we kind of covered at a high level, like the big impact that, the virus has had, and Fan and I joke, we call it the C virus because it's almost reminiscent of, if you ever play Resident Evil, the T virus from Raccoon City that caused all the zombies to kind of pop up. But yeah, we kind of joke about it because it's something you can't say. If you type it, it flags in the system and like the NSA is on you. So it's just funny. But yeah, I will turn it over to you, Sirius. What are your thoughts? What's going on?
Yeah, it's almost kind of like a zombie virus because everybody just slowly follows in the same exact footsteps. I feel like everybody's overreacting with this coronavirus. Like it's very serious, don't get me wrong, no pun intended, but I mean it's just like people say, it's hashtag wash your damn hands. I mean, think of all the dirty things we come in contact with every day. And it's like if you have a strong immune system, you take care of yourself, it's like you'll be fine.
Common sense, like you said.
It really is. And not just music festivals and movies. I actually recently read because I'm going to get into a little bit of WWE later, but WWE has taken notice of this coronavirus, and because for those of you who are wrestling fans, WrestleMania this year is actually going to be held in Tampa Bay, and there's a lot of concern over the coronavirus. I know they were limiting the number of access signings, and if it continues to spread, I'm not sure if they're going to go along the routes of possibly canceling it. But it's like the fact that all these major events, like we said, from WrestleMania to Ultra to James Bond movies, it's like it really knows no end.
Yeah, and I was really, like I said, I've never seen a virus impact the entertainment world such that the James Bond film was pushed out. It's amazing because it probably took a lot of conversations, especially since they wanted it to be very successful since the end of the franchise for Daniel Craig. But it's like, it really puts in perspective like how big this impact is from a global perspective, because they really and how it's impacting not just tourism, because you are sitting in a movie theater full of germs. You know that, I know that. You don't know who sat in the seat before you and all the collective of germs in there. You know as well as I do, and it's common knowledge, and it's no offense to the people who work in the theater. They only just sweep up like before the next movie starts. They have 5 minutes to take care of all that. It's not like they disinfect all the seats. So, you are going to be sitting in a theater, a public place, and be watching a film and like be susceptible to a lot of the germs. And if someone has the virus, if they basically sneeze on you, it pretty much, exposes you. So the other piece of news as well is that some companies aren't making these statements. So like, for example, there was rumor that, since, No Time to Die was postponed, that Marvel Disney was going to think about postponing Black Widow. And I think there was a statement that was released that said, no, they're not. They're still moving ahead.
Good.
So, I mean, that's great news. Like I said, good for them. Like I said, I get it from a business aspect. You want to make sure you set your film, your investment up for success and give it what it could. What's interesting is that you're right. I mean, are people kind of avoiding those places because that's the best thing to do at this time. Is if you know you can't be exercising common sense, you know you're going to be avoiding public places like a a movie theater or a gym, for example. I think from a stock perspective, Peloton actually was up. So were like other in-home kind of services, because people are not going to go to the gym. That is like germ central right there. So
that's like a big hub for freaking germs.
But yeah, I mean, what do you think too about Comic-Con, and in terms of conventions and the people who go to the conventions? Serious, like, do you think that, like, what are you of the camp? Like, do you think that, like, for example, Jim Lee, I'm not knocking him, I'm just using his example. Did he make the right decision by bowing out of it? And do you think that that led to the spiral? And then Emerald City Comic-Con pretty much said, we're not going to have anyone attending anymore. So, or are you kind of in the camp of like, look, Jay Scott did the due diligence, he did the research and said, I'm still going to be there. Like, one of our favorite companies, I will put a plug in, Zenescope, is actually doing a virtual Emerald City Comic-Con. So, which is awesome. Like I said, I love that. I love their ingenuity for thinking of that, because so basically they're gonna do like a live stream, I guess, from their offices or from somewhere to showcase kind of what they would have brought to the Comic-Con. So like I said, like, there's happy mediums everywhere, but like what are your thoughts around the people who did cancel? What are your thoughts around the people who did decide to stay? Like, what if you were in their shoes, what would you think? Serious?
I mean, I can't really. It's hard for me to comment on like very specific, on everybody as a whole. But I will say, I feel like for the figure that Jim Lee is, and especially, obviously he's getting up there in age. He looks great for his age. Don't get me wrong, but as you get older, your body becomes more susceptible to different sicknesses. It's like when you're very young and when you're very old. When you're at the opposite ends of either opposite end of the spectrum, you're more susceptible to these things. But like in the middle, your body, when your body's still in the process of growing, you start to develop like immunity to these things. But who knows? Maybe Jim Lee knows that he's susceptible to sickness. Maybe he gets sick more than most people do. So I mean, I'm not sure if it was a personal thing or what, but I mean, the fact that Jim Lee's getting up there in age, I don't really see it. I mean, it sucks. Don't get me wrong. I mean, like if I knew that I was going to go see Jim Lee and all of a sudden, I bought my tickets and then, it shows that, he canceled, obviously I would be disappointed, but at least for his sake, I would understand, especially another good example, like say, if Stan Lee, God rest his soul, I mean, if he was still alive and he chose not to attend, I mean, or shit, he was in his 90s. So, especially if somebody like him got the virus, it probably would have affected him a lot more than most people. So, I mean, I guess in certain cases I can relate, but in the end, I just think the whole thing is like blown out of proportion.
Yeah, and I mean, I can see where you're coming from on both aspects, and like for me, I feel like if you as a fan, but I get the health aspect of it, and that makes sense. Like if you were susceptible, like it does impact a lot of older people, you would take the precautions, especially when you have people who want to take pictures with you and stuff like that. Yeah. What's interesting is, like I said, for me, we've got a list of cons that we want to go to. I've kind of held off on them,
and that's the troublesome thing. Like that's the only thing that I am taking seriously about this virus. As much as it's being blown out of proportion, it's to the point where it's like, how far is it going to go? Because I mean, for me personally, I'm going to New York Comic Con no matter what. It's like if I have to wear a Sub-Zero mask the whole entire time.
Well, you're not supposed to wear a mask, actually. That's what the CDC said.
Oh,
But
really?
no, only if you're sick. But yeah, I mean, excuse me. I think, like, for me, like I said, I've held off on making that purchase because I'm not sure if it's still going to happen, especially since a lot of,
especially in a place like New York.
No, I'm not talking about the New York Comic Con. I'm talking about just Comic Cons in general. We have a list of ones that we're trying to go to, and like we're trying to make decisions to buy the tickets, at a better rate because they usually offer early bird. And like, how can I be an early bird if I'm unsure if it's going to happen still?
Yeah.
So I've held off on certain ones because, like, I'm just kind of like, if they end up canceling, what happens? And like, do they get their money? Do people get their money back? I would hope so.
Yeah,
but
they should.
To an extent, I don't know. And I will say, I appreciate things like the Ticketmaster offers. Like, you could buy for $20 insurance just in case anything happens and you can't go to the show because you'll get your money back. So, I mean, being in a large public venue like a concert and we'll get to it in a minute, where you're going to a wrestling match is, it really opens you up for, anything, the common cold, the flu, coronavirus, and, it's quite interesting. So I will end it there. I hope everyone stays safe in that sense. And then, we'll keep an eye on how this is going to impact a lot of the entertainment world, as well as movies, and keep you posted. It's just going to be an interesting thing. So I will move on to the next topic, which we wanted to talk through because, Sirius is a big fan of WWE wrestling. And, he actually is lucky he actually gets to attend a live event today, and I'm sure he's super excited. So why don't you give the rundown to us non-fans or semi-fans out there? What are you going to go see?
The WWE pay-per-view Elimination Chamber is tonight in Philadelphia at the Wells Fargo Center, and I'm super excited. And my coworkers got together and actually got me these tickets as a holiday gift, which I'm super grateful and super thankful for. I'm really excited to attend, and it's actually in a club box seat, so it'll be nice to experience a club box. This is my first time sitting in one, but yeah, it's really cool to get to attend these things, because for me personally, like I said, for one, I'm not as afraid of the coronavirus as most people, and we'll see what happens. We'll see how far it takes. If it goes further into the year or even goes into 2021. But as far as the pay-per-view goes, I'm super excited. I wanted to share some of my predictions for you wrestling fans out there. I know a lot of people. I ended up meeting a lot of people at my work who I never knew were wrestling fans until I started talking about it. So I just wanted to go through my predictions of the matches that were going on. First one is the Raw Tag Team Championship match. It's the Street Profits versus Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy. The Street Profits just recently won the tag titles off of Rollins and Murphy a couple weeks ago. I personally see them retaining the title because I think that Seth Rollins is going to end up facing Kevin Owens at WrestleMania as part of a new feud. So that's what I see happening there. United States Championship match, Andrade versus Humberto Carrillo. I love both these guys. Like they're very entertaining, but it's like, how many times do I have to see Andrade versus Carrillo? There's also rumors that, Vince isn't completely sold on Carrillo yet, which is why they always have him losing. And that's usually the trend in any wrestling organization. But, I personally like Andrade a little bit better. I've always liked him, so I'm hoping that he retains the United States title. SmackDown Tag Team Championship match is actually inside of Elimination Chamber. So you have 6 teams. You have Miz and Morrison, who are the current champs, The New Day, Kofi and Big E, Lucha House Party, Heavy Machinery, The Usos, and Ziggler and Rude. Now, all of these people are capable of winning the tag titles because it's one of those titles where, it can easily change hands and set up an epic match at WrestleMania for like a one-on-one like tag team match. So originally I was thinking that, the Usos could have pulled this off. But like I said, to set up a feud, especially with the Usos just coming back recently, I think Miz and Morrison will retain the titles. And then I think they'll probably set up like a match like the Usos versus Miz and Morrison at WrestleMania, which would be an entertaining match. I'm really glad that Morrison came back. He was always an entertaining high flyer. And he used to be tag partners with The Miz, so it's cool to see the team back together. There's an Intercontinental Championship match. It's a 3-on-1 handicap match, which I think is odd. It's Braun Strowman, who's the current champ, versus Shinsuke Nakamura, Cesaro, and Sami Zayn.
That's strange.
Yeah, so apparently what happened on Raw during the contract signing, Strowman made a comment that just sign the damn contract. I'll fight all 3 of you if I have to. And then Sami Zayn called them out on it, so they all signed their names and they made it.
And is this the final pay-per-view before the big event?
Yes. This is it. Yes,
okay.
this is the final pay-per-view going into WrestleMania. So anytime between tonight and WrestleMania, there's going to be a lot of setups for, big time matches and feuds, if they haven't already been set up already. So I'm not sure what's going to become of the Intercontinental title picture after this match. I don't know who Braun Strowman is even going to think of facing after this, because I see Braun Strowman winning this match. Honestly, I think it's going to be one of those classic scenarios where it's like, they're going to fight over who's going to pin him, and then, Strowman will get the upper hand. So, yeah, I'm not too interested in that match. Now, this match, I think could possibly steal the show because I really love these 2 wrestlers. Like, they're great performers. It's a no disqualification match, which is the part that worries me. It's Aleister Black versus AJ Styles. They're both great technical wrestlers. And like I said, aside from Andrade and Carrillo putting on a good show, like this match can possibly steal the whole pay-per-view. Like I said, I don't think that I'm worried that it's a no DQ match because that, of course, that opens up, interference from.
And is this in the chamber?
That's not in the chamber.
That's not in the
chamber.
Okay.
It's weird because, it's called Elimination Chamber, but there's only 2 matches that's actually going to be inside the chamber, and only one of them is a championship match. The other one's a number 1 contenders match, which I'm actually saving for last. Right. Yeah, I got my comments on that. So yeah, I think Aleister Black just recently lost to a gauntlet match with Styles and Gallows and Anderson, but I think I know right now that they're actually setting up AJ Styles versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania. So, I mean, either way, that match is going to happen. But, at the same time, Aleister Black really just recently suffered a loss on Raw. And I feel like whoever loses this match, their momentum is going to be kind of like dropped a little bit for WrestleMania. Like if Styles loses this match, obviously, I think that momentum is just going to carry into WrestleMania. But at the same time, I think Black needs this win more than anybody because I know Styles' contract is coming up, and I'm not sure if he's re-signing or not. So it makes sense for Aleister Black to get the win to push him over. Daniel Bryan versus Drew Gulak. I mean, come on, Bryan's going to win. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, just skip that one.
And the main event, which is the Raw Women's Championship number 1 contender match.
Wow, the main event's actually, what is that?
and it's a chamber match, and the 6 contestants are Natalya, Liv Morgan, Shayna Baszler, Asuka, Ruby Riott, who's been back the last couple weeks, and Sarah Logan. This is almost an easy one. I mean, the fact that after Becky Lynch defeated Asuka at the last pay-per-view, Baszler's been constantly in her face. So it's really weird that they build up this feud with Baszler and Lynch right before an Elimination Chamber match with 5 other women other than Baszler. So it kind of makes you think, what would be the sense of having these 2 women feud if Baszler is not going to win that match and go on to WrestleMania to face her?
Yeah, and is she the NXT, the former champion?
Yes, she was the former NXT. She lost it to Rhea Ripley, who's actually facing Charlotte at WrestleMania. Okay. And they're 2 pretty tall women, and they're both great wrestlers, so that'll be a great match. And like I said, I think Baszler and Lynch is going to be a great match at WrestleMania. I mean, no pun intended, but because Baszler's called this the Queen of Spades, but you got to call a spade here. I mean, it's like they build up this feud, so it only makes sense for Baszler to win the chamber match, and especially with Ruby Riott just coming back, Liv Morgan just had a character makeover, and with Logan back in the picture, I feel like it's too soon for them to really develop any kind of like women's title picture for them. And Natalya, I mean, she's at work. She's the workhorse. She's the backbone of the women's division, in my opinion. Yeah. She's been there for so many years, and she just does whatever it takes to develop this brand for them. But I don't see her winning. I mean, Asuka is awesome, but I think that especially with her still being women's tag champs with Kairi Sane, I think that it would make more sense for them to set up a women's tag team title match at WrestleMania for them. So I see Baszler winning. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see how the predictions go tonight. But thanks for sharing that with us. I mean,
yeah, I figured it'd be nice to like change it up a little bit.
We don't get a lot of chance to talk about wrestling, and you haven't been able to cover it as much. I know you've been busy as well with life, and so it's good to cover something different amidst all this Corona hype. So, yeah. But yeah. So thanks for that. So we'll have to wave at you if we see you. For those of us that'll be watching it from home, or we'll get the scoop from you at next week's podcast on the predictions you made versus what really happened in real life. So yeah, that should be fun. So with that, I will call it a day, and thank you everyone for joining us again as usual on our podcast. We really would love to hear from anyone listening, from our listeners on the podcast, any kind of feedback. Feel free to tweet us at JusticeSith or our email. It's
SithJusticeWarriorsPodcast@email.com.
Yep. So send your thoughts, send your critiques.
And if you want to hear more wrestling, feel free to drop us a line, because it's like we say at the beginning of every podcast, everything under the Twin Sons of Tatooine. So you want to hear more wrestling, you want to hear more comics, you want to hear more movies, if you want to hear more music, just let us know.
We'll do our best to keep it balanced. But yeah. Anyway, have a great week, everyone, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.